What's up gamers, it's Paw, and this is my day 3 quick guide of the new 6.4 Extreme, the Voidcast Dais, where you will face Golbez, the Knight in Black. This is the hardest Extreme trial in Endwalker, so be ready.
Expect no mercy. To destroy you, I shall bring my all to bear. Come, warriors from beyond the rift.
The first thing you want to establish is clock spots and light parties, because you will need these later on in the fight. And also make sure to pair up a DPS with the support, so melees with the tanks and healers with the ranged. And please, for the love of God, use true north positions for the whole fight, because that will make your job a lot more easier. The first mechanic is Terastorm, which will create 2 meteors on 2 opposing intercardinals that will make the other 2 intercardinals safe. This can be either the northwest and southeast intercardinal or the northeast and southwest intercardinal. For this, you can just stand on the hitbox, you will not get hit, trust me. After this, Golbez will cast Lightning Spark, which creates an orb in everybody's position, so you want to stack these up and then move at the end of the cast bar. Then the boss will target a random player and cast Phases of the Blade. You can bait this south or wherever you want if you stack up, and then he will cleave in front of him and then behind him, so you will need to start behind him and then go in front of him. This has another iteration later on in the fight called Phases of the Shadow, but more about that later. Next up, he's going to cast Binding Cold, which is just an AoE, so heal, shield and mitigate properly. Next up is the main mechanic of this fight, Gales. This has a bunch of patterns and combinations, so I created diagrams for you guys to demonstrate the possible combinations. The boss will send 4 clones to the 4 cardinals in a random order, and these will create wind orbs that will make certain sections of the arena safe and unsafe. The first to go out is either going to be north or south, and then the other one, and then is going to be east and west going out, either east or west first and the other second. These are the combinations. During the first 2, there will be a middle safe spot always, either created by north or south, and the other will have a safe spot either on the west or on the east side. The second 2 are easier. Either east can create a safe spot on the top and west on the bottom, or east can create a safe spot on the bottom and west on the top. Now comes the twist. There is going to be an ice cleave going on, either half side on the north side and half side on the south side, or half side on the east side and half side on the west side. I made diagrams for these so it's easier to understand. These are the possible patterns. Okay, now let's see the mechanic all together. The boss sends out the clones in random order, and then the first Gale is going out, and then the second Gale is going out with the ice, and then the third Gale is going out, and then the 4th Gale is going out. Then the boss will cast another Phases of the Blade, so stand behind him and then go in front of him, and then he will cast another Binding Cold, which is the AoE. Next up, tank busters on both tanks. These will have 4 small drops and 1 big meteor drop at the end. These cleave, so do not stand next to the tank. Next, the boss will cast Azdaja's Shadow, which indicates that from now on the boss can cast Phases of the Shadow, which is the store mechanic I was talking about earlier. And then he will cast Black Fang, which is a bigger AoE, but it doesn't really hit that big, but make sure to mitigate and heal. Then he will cast another Azdaja's Shadow. This is a store mechanic, which means that whatever the boss does will be stored for later. This has 2 patterns throughout the fight. It either has the big purple circle around the boss, which means that the boss will do a donut attack, so you need to be under him, and then it will be a spread mechanic, so you need to go out to your clock spot, or it can have the small purple circle around the boss, which means that the boss will do a chariot attack, so you need to be out of the hitbox, out of max melee as well, yes. And then there will be light party stacks that go on the healers, or if the healers are dead, then on 2 random players. Then he will cast a tank buster, which will require the tanks to swap, because the boss will give the active tank a shadow debuff. If a tank has 3 of these, they will die. Then he will cast Phases of the Shadow and will cleave in front of him and then behind him, and then the previously stored mechanic will go off. So it will be either in and then spread, or out and then light party stacks. Then the boss will cast double Meteor. One support and one DPS will get a flare, a healer will get an omnidirectional knockback, and 5 people get nothing. In addition, 2 towers will spawn in 2 corners opposite of each other. One will have 2 smaller towers in it and the other 3 smaller towers in it. The one with the 3 towers always spawns north, so northwest or northeast. The one with the 2 towers will always spawn southwest or southeast. You will need to dedicate the north side of the arena to the DPS and the south side of the arena to the support. The healer with the knockback goes dead center. The DPS with the flare gets knocked to the northern corner that has no tower. The support with the flare gets knocked to the southern corner that has no tower. The remaining 3 DPS will get knocked to the northern corner of the arena that has the 3 tower, and the remaining 2 support will get knocked to the south corner of the arena that has the 2 tower. In addition though, the healer who had the omnidirectional knockback will have to bait the dragon that Golbez has towards the south side of the arena. The others have to watch not to stand in the path of this or they will die, since the towers and the flares will give them vulnerability up. Then he will cast another Azdaja Shadow, storing an out and stack or in and spread mechanic for later. Then he will do another swap Swapbuster. Make sure to swap. Then he will cast Void Stardust, the Exaflare mechanic. These Exaflares will start in 2 corners opposite of each other, northwest and southeast, or northeast and southwest. They will indicate a direction they are going, and they will be coming back to the middle, so watch out there as well. You will need to dedicate the west side to group 1 and the east side to group 2. The easiest way to do this is to stand in the middle and watch your corner. Once the corner Exaflare went out, just dodge into the corner from the middle, and as a healer or range you can just stay in this corner. As a melee or tank, once the middle cleared out, you can go in for uptime. For this mechanic, it is important to stay with your body you dedicated at the beginning of the fight before pulling, so tanks with melees and healers with ranged, because either all the support or all the DPS will get an enumeration that needs 2 people to be resolved. By the way, if you get hit by an Exaflare, you will get a vuln up and you will die to your enumeration, so do not do that. Tanks can cheese invuln if they want though. Up next, Golbez will either cast Eventide Triad or Eventide Fall. Eventide Triad hits 1 person from each role, so because of that, we send the DPS south, the tanks up north, and the healers to either side. You can live this alone, by the way. Eventide Fall, however, will target both of the healers, or if they are dead, a random person, with a big cleave, so everybody needs to stack up in their light parties on the west and east side of the boss. Up next is another Binding Cold AoE and another multi-hit tank buster on both tanks. Next he will cast another Phases of the Shadow, cleaving in front of him and then behind him, and releasing the previously stored mechanic, which is in and spread or out and light party stacks. Then he will cast Terastorm, making 2 intercardinals unsafe and seemingly 2 intercardinals safe, but only one of them is truly safe, since this time the ice cleaves will take part in this mechanic as well, cleaving one of the safe sides, making only 1 intercardinal 1 quadrant of the arena safe. So peel your eyes for this one. During this, there will be 2 light party stacks on the healers. For uptime, we send the melees and the tanks with 1 healer to the front, and the 2 range with 1 healer to the back. He will cast another Binding Cold AoE, and then our favorite mechanic will return, with a twist this time, Gale's 2. This mechanic is exactly the same as the first Gale's, but there is an additional stack and enumeration mechanic. Both will be present throughout this mechanic, but one will be first and the other will be second. So it can be stack first and enumeration second, or enumerations first and stack second. The first mechanic, regardless what it is always going to be going out with the first Gales. The second mechanic, the opposite of the first one, will be going out after the last Gales. Since there are a lot of combinations to this mechanic, because either north can be first or south can be first, and either east can be last or west can be last, I made diagrams for each iteration, so it may help you understand this mechanic more. Then he will cast another Phases of the Blade and will cleave in front of him, then behind him. Then he will cast another Binding Cold AoE, and then he will do another Azdaja Shadow, storing an in or out mechanic for later. Then he will do another Swapbuster, so don't forget to swap. After that, another favorite mechanic will return, Void Stardust 2. This is pretty much the same as Void Stardust 1, but the starting positions and the safe spots are a bit different. And the Exaflares are also going a bit faster. So the starting positions are still opposite opposite of each other, but instead of them starting in a corner, they start at the wall now, so they can start north and south or east and west. For this, you need to dedicate group 1 to south and west and group 2 to north and east. The easiest way to do this is to go to the corner next to where these start, and once the first drop went out, just step in there. Ranged and healer can stay at the wall, and melees and tanks can go in once the middle also cleared out. Also make sure that you stayed with your buddy, since there will be enumerations going out here as well, either on the DPS or on the support. As the enumerations are going off, he will cast another lightning spark, so make sure you stay stacked with your buddy and only move at the end of the cast bar. Next up, he will cast Eventide Triad or Eventide Fall. Eventide Triad is the roll stacks and Eventide Fall is the light party stacks. Then he will cast Phases of the Shadow, releasing the previously stored mechanic, which is in and spread or out and stacks. After this, there are no new mechanics, just repetitions of previous mechanics. He will do another double Meteor, a multi-hit tank buster on both tanks, another Gale mechanic, which is the exact same as the second one. By the way, you can kill the boss before this even happens. He will cast another Binding Cold AoE, another Storm mechanic, another Swap tank buster, and after this the Storm mechanic will go out with the front and back cleaves. He will do a few more mechanics after this, like AoEs, tank busters, but no major mechanics will happen. And then he will do another Azdaja Shadow, and then another Black Fang. That's the Hard Enrage. I do not have footage of these because I've honestly never seen them. But yeah, that's it for this guide. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it was helpful. If you liked it, make sure to follow, like, and comment if you have any thoughts that you want to share with me. Also check out my other videos, my shorts, my other guides, my other clear videos, and my Twitch channel that I stream almost every day on, Twitter, my TikTok, and my Instagram. All links are down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.